Preston Ashley's heartwarming video proves Deion Sanders' recruiting influence. Four-star defensive back recruit Preston Ashley has wanted to play for Colorado coach Deion Sanders longer than he has understood recruiting rankings or even depth charts. The Colorado Buffaloes' newest defensive back signee made that clear when he posted a childhood video of himself in a bandana, announcing his first day training and introducing himself as AKA Deion Sanders. That clip resurfaced this week as Ashley signed his letter of intent with Colorado, completing a path from the backyard to a spot in the secondary built by the coach he once pretended to be. Ashley, a 5'11", 185-pound defensive back, joins the Buffalo's 2026 newcomer class as one of its headliners. He is a four-star prospect and an Under Armour All-American, rated inside the national top 250 by several services and among the top defensive backs in Mississippi's 2026 class. Across 4 varsity seasons at Brandon High School, which competes in Mississippi's 7A classification, he recorded more than 200 tackles, 14 pass breakups, 8 tackles for loss and 3 interceptions while helping the Bulldogs reach 2 state championship games and another semifinal. Built for Colorado's secondary, recruiters view Ashley as a versatile defensive back capable of playing multiple roles. Some lists slot him as a cornerback, others as a safety, and he has described himself as a pure defensive back, willing to line up wherever the staff needs him. That flexibility matters for a Colorado defense that has shuffled players between corner, nickel, and safety the past 2 seasons and is still searching for a stable rotation. On film, Ashley has played press coverage on the outside, slid into the slot, and shown up as an extra defender in the run game. As a junior, he finished with 68 tackles, 5 pass breakups, and a defensive touchdown on a fumble return for a Brandon team that reached the 7A title game. As a sophomore, he added 66 tackles for a group that made the semifinals. Coaches who have broken down his tape highlight his willingness to tackle in space and his ability to diagnose screens, all while having a knack for finding the football. Football family, familiar expectations empty heading. Ashley's background suggests he understands the demands that come with major college football. His father, Tyrone, played at Ole Miss, while uncles Rowell and Rock Preston played at Ole Miss and Florida State. Rowell spent time with the Green Bay Packers, and Rock won a national championship with the Seminoles in 1993. Growing up around that level of experience, Ashley has said, helped him learn early what work habits and preparation are required to move from high school standout to reliable college player. That foundation contributed to a lengthy offer list that stretched across the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC before he committed to Colorado in June and later signed during the early period. Staffers at Brandon and evaluators who have worked with him describe a player who is comfortable with big expectations and rarely comes off the field. Why Colorado made sense. Ashley has repeatedly called Colorado coach Deion Sanders his hero since childhood and said he grew up studying Sanders' highlights and personality long after his playing days ended. The 4-star prospect has pointed out to the stories of players and coaches attending one another's weddings and staying connected off the field as evidence of the family atmosphere he wants in a college program. Long before Preston Ashley ever put on a Colorado hat, long before recruiting rankings placed stars beside his name, and long before he became one of the most coveted defensive backs in the 2026 class, there was a little boy in a backyard wearing a bandana, holding an imaginary microphone, and announcing to the world that it was his first day training. He introduced himself not as Preston, not as a dreamer, not as a kid pretending to be a football player, but as AKA Deion Sanders, the persona he had adopted with absolute sincerity. It was a moment recorded quietly on a home video, a child's tribute to the icon he idolized. Years later, that clip resurfaced, not as a cute coincidence but as a poetic symbol. Proof that dreams sometimes loop back on themselves in ways even the dreamers can't understand. And this week, as Preston signed his letter of intent to play for the Colorado Buffaloes, the boy with the bandana finally met the man who shaped his imagination. For Deion Sanders, the coach who has come to redefine modern recruiting through charisma, connection, and an unmistakable cultural pull, The video was another reminder of the reach he has with a younger generation that grew up imitating his swagger long after his playing days ended. For Colorado fans, it was the purest representation of what Sanders has brought to Boulder, belief. And for Preston Ashley, a 5'11", 185-pound defensive back from Mississippi, it was a full-circle moment that stitched together childhood innocence and grown-up ambition. He didn't sign with Colorado because of a marketing pitch or a depth chart guarantee. He signed because the man he once pretended to be handed him a real opportunity to become someone even better. Ashley enters Colorado's 2026 class as one of its headline talents, a 4-star prospect and Under Armour All-American ranked inside the national top 250. He's not simply a standout, he's a statement recruit. Across 4 seasons at Brandon High School, one of Mississippi's toughest 7A programs, Ashley accumulated more than 200 tackles, 14 pass breakups, 8 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions while helping lead the Bulldogs to 2 state championship appearances and another semifinal run. His resume reflects production, consistency, and impact. But more importantly, his film tells the story of a player built for the evolving demands of major college secondaries. He has played press on the outside, slid into the slot, diagnosed screens with veteran-level patience, and delivered tackles in open space that shut down drives before they could grow dangerous. He plays with instinct, with urgency, and with the kind of physicality that coaches crave. Some scouting services list him as a cornerback, others as a safety, but Ashley sees himself as something more fluid, a pure defensive back, a player who doesn't need a label to understand his role. Colorado's defensive staff loves that mindset. Under Sanders, the Buffaloes have spent 2 seasons shuffling bodies across corner, nickel, and safety spots as injuries, transfers, and inconsistent depth forced constant adjustments. They have been searching not just for star power but for versatility, reliability, and intelligence. Preston fits that mold perfectly. His movement is smooth, but his mentality is rugged. His coverage is disciplined, but his tackling is fearless. He plays like someone who has been studying the position his entire life, and in many ways, he has. The foundation was laid long before high school snaps or all-region accolades. Preston comes from a football family that understands the demands of real competition, the kind that doesn't care about hype or social media clips. His father, Tyrone Ashley, played at Ole Mississippi. His uncles, Rowell and Rock Preston, competed at Ole Miss and Florida State. Rowell even spent time with the Green Bay Packers, while Rock was part of Florida State's 1993 national championship team. Growing up in that environment, Preston absorbed lessons without realizing they were lessons. The importance of preparation, the need for discipline, the reality that talent alone is never enough. Those experiences built a player who not only excels on the field but understands what it requires to stay there. That's why his recruitment never felt like a search for a shortcut. His offer list stretched across the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC, and he could have chosen a dozen school logos that hold enormous weight. But Preston was looking for something deeper: connection, accountability, and a program that felt like a family rather than a transaction. Colorado became that place. For all the viral clips and television features that accompany Deion Sanders, the quiet truth of his program is that relationships matter. Players talk about attending each other's weddings. Coaches stay involved long after eligibility ends. Those were the stories that caught Preston's attention, the off-camera pieces of the culture, the parts that point to something sustainable. When he met with defensive coordinator Robert Livingston, the tone was exactly what Preston wanted to hear. Livingston didn't make promises. He didn't guarantee starting snaps or inflate expectations. He talked about competition, development, and the reality that Preston would have to earn every role he would eventually fill. For a player raised on hard work, the message landed perfectly. And when the decision came, Colorado wasn't just a good fit. It was the only fit that made sense. The personality Preston brings with him, confident, engaged, energetic, is something Colorado's staff has been purposefully targeting. His social media presence shows flashes of swagger, the kind that makes people remember names. He signs off posts with presto money. But behind the persona is a player who responds to structure and thrives under demanding coaching. Evaluators consistently describe him as someone who is coachable in the best sense of the word. Receptive, curious, and resilient. For a secondary room trying to build both depth and identity, that combination is priceless.